Yesterday on my main channel, which is youtube.com/Timcast, it is a different channel from this one, I covered a story about CNN being accused of running a story about a staged coyote smuggling operation, basically smuggling illegal immigrants across the border. The accusation was that the smuggler was wearing like a balaclava and fatigues, and it just looked way too on the nose. Advocacy groups say the smugglers don't actually do this. They try and blend in. So they did not believe it was real. Now, I certainly would believe CNN would stage something like this, or at the very least, they knew it was staged and they decided to run the story anyway because, who cares about the facts, right, CNN? But in the end, I'll just, what I concluded was the simplest solution is they just filmed an illegal border crossing. The question was, why is it that these people wearing these masks and fatigues, why is it so obvious? I got to tell you, it's a simple solution. It really is. There is a boom right now because of Joe Biden's failure, because of the lackadaisical attitude we get from the Biden administration, because of their attempts to appease the woke left. There are many new smugglers getting into the business. Now, you guys ever watch Breaking Bad? I've only seen a little bit of it, but I remember there's that scene, right? For those that aren't familiar with that show, it's where the guy, he's a teacher, he's like a science teacher, and then he gets cancer, and then he has to sell drugs to pay off his medical bills. Okay, so anyway, he wants to do a deal, like sell drugs, and he meets these people out in the middle of the desert, and they're like, what are we doing here? Like, why don't we just meet at the mall or something? The point was, this guy, Heisenberg, the main character, he learned about this stuff from movies, which is not real. Like, if you want to do a deal, you got to go out in the middle of the desert, which is honestly more obvious. These weird cars pulling up in the middle of nowhere. Someone could see him driving out and be like, what are they doing? As opposed to being in the mall and just handing someone a package. And that's the point. Could it be that this incident we saw with the guy wearing the balaclava is just some guy who's like, damn, now's my chance to make some cash? Because Joe Biden ain't doing nothing about this. Things are getting worse than they've ever been. So now you've got a bunch of guys who are like, I could do that job, not knowing anything about it, puts on a ski mask and fatigues and is like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do, I guess. And is like giving out masks. Why? It might not look normal, but it could just be new, inexperienced smugglers. Here's the story. Exclusive. People are the new dope. Mexican cartels are seizing on Biden's lax border policies to run multi-million-dollar human trafficking scheme and are using families as decoys to smuggle single adults and drugs from elsewhere. Could it really be that simple, my friends? CNN didn't need to stage it. They need only show up with a camera because Biden has done such a terrible job in these first few months, and Kamala, that it's resulting in cartels and new smugglers rushing. Now, I will say this. I actually think the cartels are particularly savvy and efficient. And I got to tell you, man, you better respect the cartels. I'm not saying you have to like what they do, but you respect them in that these people don't play games. I don't think the people who are, like you see in this video, the guy with the ski mask. Now, that's probably some dude who's new to this. And he's like, is this what I do? The cartels got well-oiled machines. They know what's up. They control these territories, and they shut down anyone who dare oppose them, even the Mexican government. That's something that even Trump was calling out. Powerful organizations. And they found there have been two new things that have emerged since we've started legalizing recreational marijuana. Across the U.S., more and more states are decriminalizing, is the appropriate way to say it. In response, the cartels needed to find something else that's worth money. And surprisingly, there were two big things. The first was avocados. No joke. Avocados, man, legit. I went down to Mexico just over a year ago, maybe like a year and a half ago at this point, or like a year and 5 months. And I was talking to the locals and they were like, oh, yeah, man, the cartels figured out avocados are big business. And I was kind of laughing. I'm like, doesn't that mean they're kind of going like legit? And they're like, yeah, but they're still the cartels, If they're making more money on avocados, it's not about drugs. It's about just selling a product. The next big thing, though, people. Now's the chance. You got these caravans coming up from Guatemala. You've got people coming from Honduras. They're making their way through. And you got the U.S. government saying, nah, none of that under Trump. Now that Joe Biden stepped in and the dude is just befuddled, bewildered, and falling downstairs, a lot of people are like, this is our chance. Don't take my word for it. Let me give you the proof. Newsbusters runs this story. Quote, letting my hopes up. Illegal immigrant tells ABC, NBC, Biden is why they're here. They report. It was bad news bears for the Biden administration on Sunday, as the ABC's This Week and NBC's Sunday Today had to reluctantly admit that the crisis on the southern border was happening because of their policies. But it wasn't some great moral epiphany that led the liberal media to finally tell the truth. It was the fact illegal immigrants themselves were saying they were crossing because President Biden told them the border was open. So let me just pause for a second before we read more of this. The loss of life. The criminals, the cartels, the smugglers, they are telling you to your face, this is Joe Biden. It's Joe Biden. We knew that Joe Biden was going to be weak on a lot of these issues. We knew that during the campaign, the Democrats were saying things like no deportations and a path to citizenship. That's the kind of rhetoric that even Jake Tapper was roasting Jen Psaki for. At least that's my understanding of it. Like, isn't this encouraging people? Listen, I want all these people to have a good life. Each and every one of them deserves a good life. But you don't give them a good life by telling them to cross over the river where they drown, or to wander through the desert, or to be fugitives from the law. That's insane. You need to tell them to come here the proper way. And it's not that easy. It's the most frustrating thing that you have migrants who come from these countries who do everything right, and they come into the United States and they flourish. And then for some reason, you have advocacy groups and Democrats being like, let everybody run through the border. Why? So they can be second-class citizens hiding from cops getting paid under the table? That's not a good life. Maybe it's better than where they came from and they're desperate, but I do not think that is appropriate. That's why the Remain in Mexico policy made a lot of sense, because it wasn't cruel. It's like, yo, we're going to process your claims, but you've got to wait here. Now, Mexico wasn't too thrilled about it. Check us out. Newsbuster says, with NBC spending the last week refusing to call what was happening at the border crisis in any way, the network tried to make up for the lost time by throwing out the term at seemingly every opportunity. And correspondent Dasha Burns was at the Rio Grande Valley where she whined about politicians playing the border blame game. Burns spoke with one family via a translator who explained that they entered the U.S. illegally because they wanted to take advantage of the opportunities Biden was giving them. Burns, some say the new president gave them hope for a life in America. Why did you decide to come now? The illegal immigrant says, to take advantage of the opportunities that the president has given to the people who come from Central America to come with their family. It was the same story on ABC when co-host Martha Raddatz spoke with a father from Brazil who fled to the U.S. with his family. He told her that Biden was getting his hopes up. Reddit says, so did you come here because Joe Biden was elected president? And the illegal immigrant says, basically, the main thing was the violence in my country. And the second thing I think was Joe Biden. You know, he's like letting up my hope. You know what I mean? Definitely. When she asked him about trying to enter America illegally under former President Trump, he said he wouldn't dare try. Definitely not. Definitely. We had the chance, you know, but the same violence that's going on today was there last year. We used to watch the news and we definitely wouldn't do this. But Reddit's continued to play defense for the Biden administration when speaking with Republican Arizona Governor Doug Ducey. We flew alongside the governor as he took an aerial tour of the border to see the situation for himself. He says Joe Biden is to blame. She shrugged and threw her hands when suggesting that Biden did all he could when he told migrants not to come in an interview with the network last week. Luckily, Ducey made her look foolish. Reddit said, you heard President Biden say the other day, don't come. What more can he do? Ducey says, well, he certainly can communicate more often, more clearly, and he should be talking to Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. He's got a big microphone. He needs to use it appropriately. But the Biden administration has turned back the majority of those crossing into the U.S., many distraught after believing they would find refuge in America, she pouted. Meanwhile, the broadcast networks were still refusing to show how migrants had crossed over the border illegally earlier this month while wearing shirts and holding signs that said, Biden, please let us in. And that's true. They were wearing shirts that said, Biden, please let us in. I am sick of these pathetic, feckless politicians. Donald Trump, for all his problems, was the guy going, no. And they knew it. Look, these people come to the border. They're wearing shirts saying, Biden, please let us in, because they are manipulating the emotions of the Democrat voter base to take advantage of the system that results in a detriment for everyone. I have personally seen this when I was covering what was going on in Sweden. We need to make sure that when migrants come in, and all of those people wearing those shirts are placed properly so that they can find work, they are protected by the law, their rights are guaranteed, but just having them waltz on in creates a serf class. And I get it. Bernie Sanders said it in 2015. Open borders is a Koch brothers proposal. They want cheap serf labor. People that are scared of the law, that won't fight for their rights and will get paid dirt wages. It's how they circumvent workers' rights and the things we've accomplished over the past 100 years. But for some reason, you see the left, ever manipulated by their emotions, unfortunately, agree to things that hurt them. I love when they're like, since Ronald Reagan, wealth inequality has been skyrocketing. I'm like, oh yeah. What was the Republican Party doing back then? What was it? Oh, mass migration. They were the party of serious immigration. Now, I'm in favor of immigration. I absolutely am, because we need more workers, and more workers means economic expansion. That is good for the United States. And the people who are coming here are the people who legit believe in the American dream. Not like many of these like young millennial types that don't think it exists. Now, these people are coming here because they know it exists. Here's the issue. If they just come in randomly and they're running through the desert, they get sick. These people could die. Kids could die. And they end up in communities laced with violence. They have no access to their rights. It is just a disaster. When they come in properly, we know we can set them up properly. We know where we can benefit the economy for everybody. There has to be a basic level of control. It's remarkable how the Democrats and the left just don't seem to care about any of this. Now, the only thing they really care about is don't arrest these people or whatever. And it's like, dude, let me show you how they really feel. Kamala Harris under fire for laughing and saying, not today, when a reporter asked her if she will visit the border. Just hours after release of photos showing the hellhole conditions at Biden's migrant camps. So Biden is operating concentration camps. I mean, that's what AOC was saying about Trump, right? Biden reopened them. So Biden is now running concentration camps. Look, he's not. But where is the left on this one? Now, there's been some criticism. AOC has criticized Joe Biden for reopening one of these facilities, but the energy just ain't there. Look, I'll give AOC respect for slamming the Biden administration for reopening this facility. But where's the photo op? Where's the coming down and saying, Joe Biden, tear down this wall? It's just not there. Now, here's the craziest thing about all this. Kamala Harris laughing. I despise this person. She's laughing. There are people who are dying at the border. There are cartels smuggling people across. It is a crisis. It is a disaster. It is the worst crisis we've seen yet. And Kamala Harris laughs in your face and in their faces. It's funny to her. It's always funny. This woman laughs inappropriately because she enjoys the suffering. You think about what she did when she was in California, keeping people past their prison sentences to use as cheap labor to fight wildfires. She took these people and said, you get $1 an hour or whatever they pay and go fight fires, risk your lives for the state. And she laughs every time. You know, it's funny. It's almost like, how did we get a villain president mocking and laughing and at the suffering of others? The Daily Mail reports Kamala Harris was asked if she had plans to visit the U.S.-Mexico border on Monday, but appeared to laugh at the question posed by a reporter. Do you have any plans to visit the border? Came a question while on the tarmac. Not today, she responded before laughing, but I have before and I'm sure I will again. Was that sarcasm? Is she being sarcastic? Not today. Sure, I'll go again. Or is she saying, F you and F them, I don't care? That's what she's really saying, man. The laughter from this administration as it all burns to the ground. Could you imagine? You know, Joe Biden struggles to get up the stairs. He falls down. Trump is saying, like, it's going to be Kamala Harris. She's going to be made president soon. We're going to have a legit supervillain president. Okay, I'm somewhat kidding, right? But think about this. The maniacal laughter at human suffering, that's Kamala Harris. And I think even the progressives recognize that. We're going to have a president sitting there and they're going to be like, Madam President, 23 children were killed in an airstrike. And she's going to go, Well, we'll have to do it again, I guess. That's Kamala Harris. She laughs all the time. One of the weirdest things I've ever seen was when she was asked about Joe Biden being a racist, and she just bursts out laughing at you, laughing in your face, laughing in my face, laughing in the face of the progressives who criticize Joe Biden over the racism. Kamala Harris laughs in our faces. Why? Because she knows she got a bunch of dumb liberals who will just vote for her and Biden no matter what because they hate Trump. And you know what, progressives? While she's sitting there laughing in your face as people are questioning Joe Biden as a racist, she's sitting there laughing in your face. Y'all vote for her anyway. Now she's laughing in the faces of the families that are suffering. It's disgusting. And we knew this is who she was. And this is what the administration is. The worst crisis we've seen probably in a generation or more, maybe the worst border crisis we've ever seen. Joe Biden's unable to handle it. He's nowhere to be found. These people are being encouraged to come by his policies, and Kamala is laughing about the whole thing. Remarkable. The vice president's response led to sharp criticism online. Hey, Kamala, you better get down there. She laughs off a lot of questions because she's incompetent. No, she's not laughing because she's incompetent. She's laughing at you. She's laughing at all of us because she knows she can do whatever she wants. She can mock, belittle, smear, deride, and gloat in the human suffering of others because she is a bad person. That's why it was so powerful when Tulsi Gabbard smacked her down. When Kamala mocked smoking, like laughed about smoking weed, but then was locking up people for smoking weed. When she threatened and laughed about locking up single mothers because their kids weren't in school. She is a psychopath who enjoys human suffering. That's why she is laughing. When they were like, you called Biden racist, she busts out laughing. Why? Because she knows y'all can't do nothing about it. She knew that even though she called Joe Biden a racist and the media was calling it out, she laughs her ass off because she knew he'd get elected anyway. She knows she can act with impunity. She can laugh in your face, spit in your face, disrespect you, and deride those who are suffering. And she knows she will get elected anyway. That's the sickness that our country is dealing with. Someone said, translation, no, she wasn't talking about your vacation plans. Kamala Harris, there's a crisis you are ignoring. Not a joke, not funny, and people deserve real answers. I'm sure I will again, stated another furious contributor. Biden also said on Sunday that he'll be making the trip at some point, despite previously saying he had no plans to visit. Harris was in Florida as she promoted the passage of the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. She posted this photo. She's like, help us here, Florida. Florida's doing fine. I mean, except for the riots, spring break, and the women, twerking on cop cars and stuff. But that's something totally different. Will they be made to answer for laughing about the crisis? I think the answer is no. Maybe the journalists might actually ask a real question. But I would like to see, if we had a real press corps, every single one would say to Jen Psaki at the next press briefing, why is Vice President Harris laughing at what's going on at the border? And then when she gives you some dumb non-answer, well, I think she was just laughing to alleviate tension. No. Why is she laughing at all? I don't care. Do you think it's appropriate that she's laughing while children are being locked in cages? Now, listen, photos have come out showing these kids in these facilities, and it's bad. It's real bad. People are talking about the pandemic, and these kids are lying next to each other, like shoulder to shoulder, basically touching. So, yeah, COVID's going to be a huge problem. They're claiming that, under Trump, it was kids in cages. I'd like to see the same level of scrutiny now. Now, in my personal opinion, I don't blame the administration for having kids in these facilities. I don't know what else to tell you. I do think it's really funny to see conservatives all of a sudden being like, look what Biden is doing. And this is what really annoys me about politics. Nah, the Biden administration is doing the right thing with these kids. Is it perfect? No. Can they give them better facilities? Probably. But they can't just have the kids wander the desert. It's not funny. It's sick. It's a net negative. It's a horrifying position we find ourselves in. Biden deserves to be criticized by the left for their own principles, but they won't do it, which now you have conservatives doing it, and it's the stupidest thing ever. Trump was not wrong to operate facilities to hold these children when we don't know where their parents are. Biden is not wrong to do the exact same thing. Biden is, however, the spineless and pathetic leadership that is causing the problem to become worse. And Kamala Harris knows, and she thinks it's hilarious. She thinks it's funny. Yep. And that's what we get with President Joe Biden. He makes it worse. The migrants say, I am coming because of him. And then Kamala laughs about it. The cartels are using this. The cartels are they're getting in the business. They know. Think about how insanely weak Joe Biden is, that he's opened the door to such crime, to such suffering. Man, I thought the Biden administration was going to be slipping on banana peels and stuff, and it is. It is. I just thought it would be funnier than that, not sad and twisted. And the Kamala Harris thing makes it all just so much worse. The mockery, the laughter. It's disgusting. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.